Hello and welcome to another In Bed reading series. Today is Mayday Eve, and every year for nearly the last decade, I've done a reading for the IWW as part of their Mayday celebration. Uh, can't do that again this year. Circumstances leave us here in the house. So I'm going to read you a poem that I read for them last year. It's by the Italian-American poet Arturo Giovannitti. Giovannitti was a member of the IWW. He organized the Bread and Roses strike in Lowell, Massachusetts. This poem that I'm about to read you, which is a little bit long, is called The Walker. It was written, I believe, in 1912 in the Allegheny County Jail here in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's a poem about being in jail. Relatable in these troubling and difficult times. So I'll get started here. Solidarity forever, brothers and sisters. The Walker. I hear the footsteps over my head all night. They come and they go again. They come and they go all night. They come one eternity in 4 paces, and they go one eternity in 4 paces. And between the coming and the going there is silence and the night and the infinite. For infinite are the 9 feet of a prison cell, and endless is the march of him who walks between the yellow brick wall and the red iron gate, thinking things that cannot be chained and cannot be locked, but that wander far away in the sunlit world, each in a wild pilgrimage after a desired goal. Throughout the restless night I hear footsteps over my head. Who walks, I know not. In this phantom of the jail, the sleepless brain, a man, the walker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 paces in the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 paces, and the iron gate. He has measured his steps, he has measured it accurately, scrupulously, minutely, as the hangman measures the rope and the gravedigger the coffin. So many feet, so many inches, so many fractions of an inch for each of the 4 paces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each step sounds my head. I count them in suspense and in dread that once, perhaps, in the endless walk, there may be 5 steps instead of 4 between the yellow brick wall and the red iron gate. He has measured the space so accurately, so scrupulously, so minutely that nothing breaks the grave rhythm of this slow, fantastic march. When all are asleep, and who knows but I when all sleep? 3 things are still awake in the night: the walker, my heart, and the old clock which has the soul of a fiend, for never since a coarse hand with red hair on its fingers swung for the first time the pendulum in the jail has the old clock tick-tocked a full hour of joy. Yet the old clock which marks everything and records everything and to everything tolls the death knell, the wise old clock that knows everything, does not know the number of footsteps of the walker nor the throbs of my heart. For not for the walker, nor for my heart is there a second, a minute, an hour, or anything that is in the old clock. There is nothing but the night, the sleepless night, the watchful, wistful night, and the footsteps that go and the footsteps that come, and the wild, tumultuous beatings that trail after them forever. All the sounds of the living beings and the inanimate things, and all the voices and all the noises of the night I have heard in my wistful vigil. I have heard the moans of him who bewails a thing that is dead, and the sighs of him who tries to smother a thing that will not die. I've heard the stifled sobs of one who weeps with the head under the coarse blankets, and the whisperings of one who prays in his forehead on the cold, hard stone of the floor. I have heard him who laughs the shrill, sinister laugh of folly, the horror rampant on the yellow wall, and the red eyes of the nightmare glaring through the iron bars. And I've heard in the sudden icy silence him who coughs a dry, ringing cough, and wished madly that his throat would not rattle so, and that he would not spit on the floor, for no sound was more atrocious than that of Sputnam on the floor. And I have heard him who swears fearsome oaths, which I have listened to in reverence and awe, for they are holier than the Virgin's prayer. And I have heard, most terrible of all, the silence of 200 brains, all possessed by one single, relentless, unforgiving, desperate thought. All this I have heard in the watchful night. And the murmur of the wind beyond the walls, and the tolls of the iron bell, and the woeful dirge of the rain, and the remotest echoes of the sorrowful city, and the terrible beatings, wild beatings, mad beatings of one heart which is nearest to my heart. All this I have heard in the still night, but nothing is louder, harder, drearier, mightier, more awful than the footsteps I hear over my head all night. Yet fearsome and terrible are all the footsteps of men upon the earth, for they either descend or climb. They descend from little mounds and high peaks and lofty altitudes, through wide roads and narrow paths, down noble marble stairs and creaky stairs of wood. And some go down to the cellar, and some to the grave, and some down to pits of shame and infamy, and still some to the glory and an unfathomable abyss where there is nothing but the staring, white, stony eyeballs of destiny. And truth, and again another footstep. They climb to life and love, to fame, to power, to vanity, to truth, to glory, and to the scaffold, to everything but freedom, and to the ideal. And they all climb the same roads and the same stairs others go down, for never, since man began to think how to overcome and overpass man, have other roads and other stairs been found. They descend and they climb the fearful footsteps of men, and some limp, and some drag, and some speed, and some trot, and some run. They are quiet, slow, noisy, brisk, quick, feverish, mad, and most awful is their cadence in the ears of one who stands still. But all of the footsteps of men that either descend or climb, no footsteps are so fearsome and terrible as those that go straight on the dead level of a prison floor, from a yellow stone wall to a red iron gate. And all through the night he walks and he thinks. Is it more frightful because he walks and his footsteps sound hollow over my head, or because he thinks and speaks not his thoughts? But does he think? Why should he think? Do I think? I only hear the footsteps and count them. 4 steps and the wall, 4 steps and the iron gate, but beyond. What goes beyond the gate and the wall? He goes not beyond. His thought breaks there on the iron gate. Perhaps it breaks like a wave of rage, perhaps like a sudden flow of hope, but it always returns to the beat of the wall like the billow of helplessness and despair. He walks to and fro within the narrow whirlpit of this ever-storming and furious thought. Only one thought, constant, fixed, immovable, sinister, without power and without voice. A thought of madness, frenzy, agony, and despair, a hell-brewed thought, for it is the natural thought. All things natural are things impossible, while there are jails in the world. Bread, work, happiness, peace, love. But he thinks not of this. He thinks of the most superhuman, the most unattainable, the most impossible thing in the world. He thinks of a small brass key that turns half around and throws open a red iron gate. This is all the walker thinks as he walks through the night. And that is what 200 minds drowned in darkness and silence in the night think. And that is also what I think. Wonderful is the supreme wisdom of the jail that makes all think the same thought. Marvelous is the providence of the law that equalizes all, even in mind and sentiment. fallen is the last barrier of privilege. The aristocracy of the intellect, the democracy of reason has leveled all of these 200 minds to the common surface of the same thought. I, who have never killed, think like a murderer. I, who have never stolen, reason like a thief. I think, reason, wish, hope, doubt, wait like the hired assassin, the embezzler, the forger, the counterfeiter, the incestuous, the raper, the drunkard, the prostitute, the pimp. I, who used to think of love and life and flowers and song and beauty and the ideal. A little key as little as my little finger, a little key of shining brass. All of my ideas, my thoughts, my dreams are congealed in this little key of shiny brass. All of my brain, all of my soul, all of my sudden urging latent powers of the deepest life are in the pocket of a white-haired man dressed in blue. And he is great, powerful, formidable, a man with white hair who has in his pocket the mighty talisman which makes one man cry, and one man pray, and one man laugh, and one cough, and one walk, and all keep away and listen and think the same maddening thought. Greater than all man is the man with white hair and the small brass key, for no other man in the world could compel 200 men to think for so long the same thought. Surely when the light breaks I will write a hymn unto him which shall hail him greater than Muhammad and Aratus and Torquemada and Mesmer and all the other masters of other men's thought. I shall call him Almighty, for he holds everything and all of me in a little brass key in his pocket. Everything of me he holds but the branding iron of contempt, the claymore of hatred, for the monstrous Kabbalah that can make the apostle, the murderer, the poet, the procurer think the same gate, the same key, the same exit on the same sunlit highways of the afternoon. My brother, do not walk any more. It is wrong to walk on a grave. It is sacrilege to walk 4 steps for the headstone to the foot and 4 steps from the foot to the headstone. If you stop walking, my brother, no longer will this be a grave, for you will to give me back my mind that is chained to your feet and the right to think my own thoughts. I implore you, my brother, for I am weary of the long vigil, weary of counting your steps, and heavy with sleep. Stop, rest, sleep, my brother, for the dawn is well nigh, and it is not the key alone that can throw open the gate. Arturo Giovannitti, Arrows in the Gale, and other poems. 1914 was the year it was originally published. This is a reissue from Quail Press. Again, Mayday is tomorrow. There are plenty of strikes happening around the country. Please don't spend money. Please don't give your money to corporate beasts. Solidarity forever, brothers and sisters. Happy Mayday.